Do you know why I don't do distro reviews or laptop reviews all that often on the channel? Well, first, it's because they don't exactly rake in the views on the channel, but second, it's also because every time I use a new distro or a new device, I kinda want to get it for myself and use that from now on. And this time it is a little bit different, at least on the distro side of things. We're gonna take a look at KDE Linux Alpha, and we're going to run it on the Tuxedo Stellaris 16 Gen 7 to check if that hardware can just be plug and play. You install something and everything runs on it, test the performance, but also give you the rundown on what KDE Linux is, how it works, what its quirks are, and basically what I think about it right now. Oh, and of course we also have this segue to our sponsor, ProtonMail. So you all know about Proton by now. They are your end-to-end, zero-access encrypted suite of services that includes email, calendar, contact, storage space, password manager, VPN, you name it, they have it in there. ProtonMail is the solution I use for all my personal email. I switched to them, I think it was a year and a half ago, for everything related to that, and honestly, I just couldn't be happier. It is super safe, you have all the phishing and spam protections you want, you have a desktop client that works on Linux, it is all encrypted, they can't give out my email to anyone even if they ask because they cannot decrypt it. It's just fantastic. The account is free to get started, but of course you can pay for more storage, for more options, and for more features in each of the individual apps. But just the free account gives you a lot of stuff and access to the entire Proton suite. As always, the link is down in the description. So, to begin with, what is KDE Linux? It is KDE's official Linux distribution, meaning it is made by the KDE team as the way of distributing their own software, the way they developed it. This basically means that they are not beholden to any distro in terms of how they package the software, how they tweak it, how they ship it, how they change various settings and themes and configurations. They get to control the entire desktop, the entire default set of apps, and the entire base system, update mechanism, packaging format. They get to control everything, which means KDE developers are probably control freaks. And that's true because in freaks you've got a K, and KDE developers really love their Ks. So, KDE Linux right now is in alpha version, so it will likely be half broken for you, although my short experience with it was pretty bug-free. It is not fully there, though it is x86 only, it doesn't work with computers without UEFI, it doesn't work with secure boots turned on, it doesn't work with the proprietary NVIDIA drivers, you will need to use the open source official ones or Nouveau, and it will not load any external Linux kernel module, so you cannot add any external driver, for example. Which is why I wanted to run it on the Stellaris 16 Gen 7, which is the laptop we'll talk about alongside this distro today, because I just wanted to check if it was fully plug and play. Can you install a distro on that monster and just run it as is, or do you actually need external stuff? Now, when we're talking about an official KDE distro, you're gonna tell me they already have KDE Neon, so why do they need another one? But apparently KDE Neon is at the end of its rope in terms of what KDE developers can actually do with it. It is still only maintained by one single person. It just doesn't work for what they want to do and what they want to accomplish and push and what they want to control. So it's not dead, but it is likely that most efforts will turn to KDE Linux instead, and Neon will likely be abandoned in the future, even though they don't say it like that. I kinda got that feeling. Now, on to the basics of KDE Linux. It is Arch-based, but not really Arch-based. It is built using Arch, but it will not give you the Arch package manager or the AUR. You do not use KDE Linux or interact with KDE Linux like you would with Arch. Instead, it is what we'll call an immutable distro, which is a terrible name because you can still change pretty much everything. The whole system is built on system images, so you can roll back to an older one if the most recent one is broken. It uses Wayland only, there will not be X11 support on that distro. It relies on systemd, Pipewire, and Flatpak, not only for installing apps, but also for building the system itself, which uses KDE Builder and Flatpak Builder. Now, if what you're looking for is not available as a Flatpak, it supports app images, it supports snaps through the command line, but it also supports containers using DistroBox, so you can install any software you want in any distro you want. It also supports Homebrew and systemd system extensions, which we will cover in this video as well. So it is a pretty weird distro with pretty weird ways of interacting with it, and it is only focusing on the latest modern Linux stack. So we'll be running it on the Tuxedo Stellaris 16 Gen 7. Now you can keep watching along the video and we'll cover specific important parts of the laptop when they become relevant when we're talking about KDE Linux specifically. So KDE Linux comes with the KDE defaults. If you've used KDE on any distro that doesn't change the default settings, that's the exact same here. Installing it takes seconds. It just works like a normal distro. Then, inside the system, you use Discover to install applications. By default, FlatHub is not configured and added. You will have to add it manually, which is easy enough, but that's kind of a blunder that I hope they fix, because without it, you just have nothing to install from Discover. You get everything in there, everything that is on FlatHub, but you do not get any apps as system packages from a regular package manager. A bunch of the default apps are installed as Flatpaks, but most of them have been built within the system image, not as Flatpaks. Stuff like Dolphin, Console, Arc, Spectacle, Discover, Info Center, System Settings, and others are all built in the system image because they do need deep system integration, and Flatpak, as KDE puts it, is a crappy solution right now for that kind of stuff. Hey, at least they're honest. Flatpak is awesome, but it is not fantastic for every single use case, and it's nice that they didn't stick to a specific format if it didn't work well for what they wanted to do. Now, you might be wondering, if Flatpak kinda sucks, why is it the default? Well, first, it doesn't suck, it sucks for deeply system-integrated apps, but second, KDE Linux is meant to be a test bed for technology on Linux, meaning that if something works not that well, it gives them a reason to fix it, and so they're basically dog-fooding all the latest Linux stack to fix and improve things. Now, if what you're looking for is not in Flatpak form, you have snaps pre-installed, available from the command line. Most of what is in the snap store is also on FlatHub, but not everything, so using snaps might work out. So, installing KDE Linux on the Stellaris 16 required zero configuration on my end. I just plugged in the USB drive in one of the USB-A ports, and it worked. The only thing I had to do was change the configuration for the GPU to only use the dedicated GPU, the NVIDIA RTX 5090 that is in that laptop, because working in MS hybrid mode, so hybrid graphics mode, did not result in a visual desktop environment on KDE Linux. It does work on Tuxedo OS, the pre-installed distro, and virtually on every other distro I ever tried on a hybrid laptop, but on KDE Linux, using it in hybrid graphics did not work. I had to set it to either the integrated GPU or the dedicated one, so I picked the dedicated one. Now, this kind of zero configuration thing was the experience I had with the whole system on this laptop. I do have the version with an Intel Core Ultra 9 275HX, which is a powerhouse of a CPU, and an NVIDIA RTX 5090. You can get the laptop with an AMD Ryzen 9 9955HX or 9955HX 3D. These CPU names are getting absolutely insane and completely impossible to understand. Obviously, the performance on this device running KDE Linux is absolutely amazing. I tried gaming on it using the Flatpak version of Steam. I ran the Horizon Zero Dawn's benchmark, and at the native resolution of 2560 by 1600 at max settings, so ultra quality, this thing told me it only reached 60 FPS on average, but it felt way smoother than that looking at the render, so I'm thinking maybe just capped at 60. I had VSync on, but a refresh rate turned to 240 Hz, and it feels like maybe this did not get taken into account, but it is the smoothest and nicest I've ever seen this benchmark run on any single computer. It definitely was more than 60, but I think the game just capped at that. This also goes to show that KDE Linux can play games. You can install Steam on there and you can install your Steam games and run them. You can install any other gaming focused apps that is on FlatHub, which is I think Lutris and the Heroic Games Launcher. Both should be in there. Also Bottles, I think. It works. Of course, the Steam Flatpak is not the best version of Steam, but you do have the Steam Tinker tool that makes it a lot easier to actually get inside the various repos, well, not repos, directories, and change various things in there, config files, add mods, and the like. I literally just did it on my own computer for Dawn of War Definitive Edition, and it just worked fine. Now, apart from that, KDE Linux let me use the webcam on this laptop, which is kind of potato quality, as all laptop webcams tend to be outside of Macs. You do have a privacy shutter here. The mic also is pretty poor on that laptop. Not terrible, but obviously not something you're going to record anything of value on. In use, the laptop felt really nice. The trackpad is wonderful, it's glass, it's smooth, it doesn't rattle or move around, it clicks nicely, it's great for gestures on Wayland in KDE Linux, super smooth. The keyboard is fantastic, but it is German quartz layout on this specific review unit. Obviously, you get access to all the keyboard layouts Tuxedo usually offers. Not something I'm used to, the quartz layout, so I'm not super proficient with it. You do have a numpad, which some people will love, some people will hate. Generally, all stuff worked really well on KDE Linux and feels extremely good to use no matter the distro you're going to run on that. It's a fantastic device. Now, something I could not do with that laptop on KDE Linux is change the keyboard backlight color. Usually on Tuxedo laptops, you use the Tuxedo Control Center, which gives you an RGB wheel to pick the color that you want. Here, you cannot really install it, because while it is available in multiple repos on KDE Linux, you just cannot install additional packages this way, and so you can't really get the Tuxedo Control Center, so you're missing out on the configuration of the keyboard backlight, and you'll also miss out on the configuration of the light bar that is beneath the laptop. Which goes to show that FlatHub really doesn't have everything. For example, you don't have the Tuxedo Control Center in there. So, fortunately, you can also install containers on KDE Linux. DistroBox is there by default, and you can create a container and run any software from any distro you want. It just works well, it supports GPU acceleration as well, whatever you want. Now, don't get me wrong, it is absolutely not as easy as a package from a package manager to run a specific application. You do have to create a container, install a distro, well, set up a container with a distro in it, install the app from the package manager of that distro, and then run that app. So it is not as easy as just installing a package on your main system. You also have access to Homebrew, which installs command line utilities in user space. So this will work on KDE Linux, no problem. You can get your command line fixed this way instead of looking at distro packages. App images also work there. You can download them, run them, and they will just work. Now, how do you update the system without a package manager though? Well, it's pretty simple. It is systemd again. You just run update ctl for update control and then update, and boom, the system image is updated and you can reboot on the new one. If this reboot doesn't work, you can still boot on the older system image, which will be available. You will never get a broken system unless you manually do something absolutely atrocious, and technically the system should prevent you from doing that. No updates will be half applied, there is no dependency hell to contend with, you just get a brand new system image, you reboot on that, and it works. It's not a specific KDE Linux thing, you can do that on virtually every other immutable distro, and even some non-immutable distros give you the same thing using snapshots from BetterFS, for example. Now, if that is still not enough for stuff that you want to actually add on top of your system, then you have systemd system extensions. This basically lets you overlay packages and files on top of the base system. The thing is, you do not have a package manager, so you can't really overlay packages that you would install and that would be loaded on top of the system image. These are system extensions that you have to build manually that are loaded in a squashfs file system, and it will be added to /user or /opt. These extensions are just a collection of files that you decide to add. All you have to do is to create a folder with the files, for example, a folder containing a compiled application. And you have to add an extension release file. You create a .raw image from that folder, and then you move it to /etc/extensions or /var/lib/extensions. You run systemd sysxt refresh, and it should automatically add the extension to your system. I will admit, I tried it for an hour trying to compile an application and I just gave up. I'm sure for someone who knows what they're doing, it's a cool solution. Nate Graham from KDE says that they use it to layer the applications they're currently working on or testing on top of their fully working system without affecting the real system. But for me, I don't really know exactly how you're supposed to build that. It feels extremely convoluted, and honestly, just use a distro box container instead of that. It feels like it serves the exact same purpose, but it's much easier. Now, as per the Stellaris 16 Gen 7, we still need to take a look at what I think about the hardware. It is a very, very cool laptop. It is 16 inches with a very compact form factor. Small bezels around the display, 16:10 screen aspect ratio, which means it is really portable, but it is heavy, 2.65 kilos or 2.8 kilos for the version with a mini LED display, which is the version I have here. This display, whether it's LED or mini LED, goes up to 300 Hz or 240 or 60 Hz, and it is 2560 by 1600 pixels. The real difference in the two displays is the brightness. The mini LED display supports HDR and goes up to 1000 nits of brightness, when the LED only goes up to 500 nits, which is still very respectable. The LED version covers 100% of sRGB, the mini LED covers 100% of DCI-P3. And of course, that mini LED display supports local dimming, and HDR worked fine on KDE Linux. Using the laptop, I could turn it on and it rendered perfectly well. You also have plenty of ports in there, a USB-A 3.2 Gen 1 that I used to install the distro from a USB drive, a USB-C 3.2 Gen 2 hardwired to the integrated GPU that supports power delivery and DisplayPort, a 2.5 gigs Ethernet jack, an audio jack, plus 2 more USB-A 3.2 Gen 1, an SD card reader, a connector for the Aquarius liquid cooling system, a Thunderbolt 4 port or USB 4 for the AMD variant, also hardwired to the integrated GPU with DisplayPort 2.1 and power delivery. You've got a barrel charger, a mini DisplayPort, and an HDMI 2.1 port. Both are hardwired to the NVIDIA GPU. That is a lot of ports. It will handle virtually everything. You can charge the device with a USB-C cable, but you'll need a pretty solid power brick to make sure that if you use the latest RTX 5070 or 5090, it's not actually going to drain power. So you do have that barrel charger by default. In terms of build quality, it is fantastic. Fully made out of aluminum, it's really rigid, it doesn't bend, it has a nice matte black design with a little bluish tint, minimal branding, just the Tuxedo logo on the back. You can change that, by the way. It's quite slim, solid hinge, it can be opened with one hand, it doesn't wobble. It's just a really, really nicely built laptop. And as we've seen, the performance is absolutely fantastic. Like, it's a Intel Core Ultra 9 or an AMD Ryzen 9. It's super powerful, and you either get the RTX 5070 or the 5090, which are both absolutely mad in terms of power. So that's what's different with KDE Linux. It's fun, it's weird, and honestly, it kinda works. You just have to jump through more hoops than other non-immutable distros to get to the same result. But you do get a system that will not break for no specific reason. It can still break, of course, but you really cannot break it yourself on accident by just copy-pasting a command line from the internet, because these will generally just not do anything on your system. You have to learn the tools that you need to use to actually change configurations and stuff. You can still break the system by layering a bad squash FS image of a system extension on top of your system. That can absolutely happen, but you cannot really follow a command line tutorial and delete everything. That's just not going to work here. Personally, I don't see a use case for myself for KDE Linux, as I don't see a use case for immutable distros either for myself. I don't think this model as it is currently works for something that device manufacturers would pre-install for general purpose computing. Unless FlatHub starts having every single app you want and lets all these apps do all they need to do without any manual tweak for permissions, I don't think this system really works. Now you're gonna tell me SteamOS is an immutable distro and it works fine. Yes, because it is for an appliance. You're really not supposed to go into the desktop mode. It is a little extra and people understand that it is limited. But as a main computing system that ships pre-installed on a laptop, it just requires way too much work from a brand new user, which is why I think that unless there's an actual graphical user interface to compile apps, layer them as systemd extensions, or a graphical way of installing packages from DistroBox, until there's that or FlatHub really matures quite fast, I don't think the immutable distro model really works for a pre-installed system for most users. Now, as per the Stellaris 16, obviously this is a device that is meant for graphics designers, 3D modelers, hardcore gamers that really need a laptop and not a desktop, maybe video editors and stuff like that, which explains why it is very expensive. It's 2,600 euros with VAT included in that for the base model, which comes with 16 gigs of RAM, the 5070 from NVIDIA, and 500 gigs of SSD. So definitely an expensive device, but honestly one of the most well-built I've seen, and it seems that the hardware is just compatible with anything. If KDE Linux, without any external modules and without the proprietary NVIDIA drivers, manages to run it that well, I think anything can. Anyway, that's Stellaris 16. We'll have to go back to Tuxedo. Unfortunately, I really wish I could keep it. KDE Linux, though, will not be installed on any of my own computers because I really don't have a use case for it right now. It's just more convoluted to do the stuff that I know how to do on something else. And honestly, other distros are already pretty stable and rock solid with snapshots, so I don't quite see the point for myself. I do like the fact that it is a test bed for new technology. It means KDE developers will probably start dog fooding their own apps as Flatpaks, meaning they probably will start fixing a bunch of stuff in there, maybe working with Flatpak developers to add more portals, more permissions, maybe improve the sandbox. So this is good for the whole Linux ecosystem. I just think that their goal of having that pre-installed by manufacturers is way too early right now. Anyway, this will conclude today's video. It was not sponsored by Tuxedo because I know somebody is going to say that in the comments at some point. It was sponsored by ProtonMail and you already had the sponsored segue. So thanks for watching. You know what to do with all usual YouTube buttons and the comment section. And I guess you'll see me in the next one. Bye!